Oh, you got your own tack box, huh? Great. Thank you. Yep.
I do John Stock.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, then I'll know.
Herb and Lorraine have me over a few times when they're doing different things around here.
Yep.
We did the dedication for Caleb Stock statue up in the square, whenever that was, 2002 or something. A long time ago.
One step that you won't be seeing here is called retting, which is I have to take my bundles and actually submerge them underwater for about 2 weeks. It takes me, and that will start the decomposition of the outer shell here, so that we can get access to the fibers. So this pile of straw here that you see is all been retted and then dried again.
Today, as we traveled along Route 13 in Dunbarton, New Hampshire, we decided to stop at the ye old blacksmith shop. What a grand surprise this is. We met Richard Wright, and he's had a lifelong interest in blacksmithing, and his first exposure to the craft was back in 1965 at his agricultural high school in Massachusetts. During his 10 years in the military, he told us he taught himself the machine shop trade and pursued a career as a prototype machinist and toolmaker. You have more than one item that you're working on?
No.
No? Okay.
Not right this second. I mean, I made another fork earlier, but I don't like it.
Oh, okay. So you're making a new one?
Making a different one, yeah, different style, just something to play with.
How do you turn that into a fork? Don't you have to split it?
The other end's already split.
Oh, I see. Okay. So that's the handle part you were working on.
Yeah.
All right, I got it.
I don't love the kind.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Gave us a little toasting fork.
Yeah.
We did it first and
It'll work though, right?
nope, never did. What is this?
Little different variations in shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
This one here is a different style handle, but it's huge. I drew it out way too far. For liking, it still functions,
Yeah.
but it's not
Nope.
aesthetically pleasing. I don't love this one either.
So what would you use a fork like that for? That's a pretty good sized fork.
Flush fork for anything that's doing in the hearth,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
We only had to get.
poultry, anything.
Okay.
Needs to be stabbed.
Yeah.
Of course,
Sometimes
current
you
day
need to go
barbecuers
through,
don't
you know what,
like
you
to
probably
puncture
find it
the
online or
meat,
something if you.
Yeah.
because you lose all the wonderful juice.
Someone that walks in will probably.
We know, right. I used to know what that was and I can't think for the life of me.
The cover of the machine.
It's a winnower.
What?
A winnower for winnowing the chaff out of seed.
As a hobby, Richard got involved in tracing his family roots and became actively involved in colonial living history, and he rekindled his interest in blacksmithing by volunteering at various museums around New England. In fact, he plays General John Stark locally at some historical events. He achieved his long life goal back in 2001 of having his own blacksmith shop, moving a historic timber frame building from Swansea, New Hampshire, to restoring it as a workshop at his residence in Hill, New Hampshire. Richard shares his time doing building restoration and smithing, with his main focus on colonial hardware. As Richard worked his metal fork in the head of the fire while pumping the handle of the bellow, creating an extremely hot temperature, he was talking about how he was not entirely satisfied with the fork where the tines separated, and that was his focus on his next anvil adjustment. Not how you want it, huh?
Not at all. They're really not symmetric enough for me.
Oh, the top of it, you mean? With hammer in hand and working the red-hot iron, he focused on making it exactly the way he would really like to see it. There is more to just making a piece in this fashion back then, because once it was completed in the blacksmith shop, another person would often be involved to finish it off, smoothing the steel to a shiny finish, so when completed, would not only be serviceable, yet very good-looking as well. Amazing, these wheels, huh? Done years ago. Today is Saturday, July 24th, and we weren't sure which way we were going to head out today, but we did end up heading up Route 13 to Dunbarton and stopping at the ye old Waite Blacksmith shop. What a great time. Was life easier in the early days? From what Richard Wright was tending at the bellow and anvil, one may think, not very much so. Was life simple then compared to today? Imagine no cell phones or electronic gadgets attached.
Really?
Would be the order of the day back in the early 1800s.
I'm sure nobody's going to tell you about it. That may be
Gina
how-
Gerhard provided us with a look back to how fabrics were made from flax. Think hay for a simple comparison, not sheep or lamb's wool. Yes, flax was grown and then tendered through a process which was very time-consuming and certainly hard work.
Oh, okay. Okay. Whoops. Well, get that bunch. I'm just going to put my foot on this so the rest of it. There you go. Yeah, it's funny. I have this little baby one that is smaller, so she can use it. So this is some flax straw that I grow in my home garden, and in order to do this presentation, no one sells this, so I have to grow my own supply. But I focus on historic textile preparation, and so flax straw was grown by most New England farmers on their inventories as a textile crop to produce what it ends up producing is linen fabric, or linens, toweling and sheets and bedding and that type of thing. So I grow the straw, and the one step that you won't be seeing here.
Later
is
on,
called,
Gina talked
retting,
about the colonial
which is-
era
I
and
have
why
to take
growing
my
and
bundle
processing
of
flax became a necessity. Early settlers in colonial America considered themselves to be subjects of Great Britain. They made the long, dangerous ocean voyage in hopes of finding a better life. In the colony, there was the promise of prosperity and, for some, freedom from religious persecution. When colonists first settled in America, most of their material were supplied by the mother country, who looked on the colonies as a market for British goods.
Process it up in about a handful, and there's sort of three basic tool stations. There's a step called breaking.
The colonists considered English goods to be the highest quality and were much preferred to colonial-made goods. To ensure continuation of trade with the colonies, England tried to discourage colonial cloth manufacture, and high tariffs were levied on looms and spinning wheels.
That's called hatchling or hetchling, and that does the kind of final comb out. So, you want me to show you the steps? Okay. Julie and I will be breaking flax, and all it is sort of a wooden bladed implement that just sort of starts the crunching.
The British also passed acts forbidding the export and the sale of cloth woven in the colonies. These acts, as well as an increasing number of others, developed a strong spirit of independence among the colonists. As the desire for independence grew, so did the price of imported European cloth. It soon became not only practical, but a sign of patriotism as well, to spin and weave one's own cloth.
This step is called swingling or scutching.
The first sound of revolution was the rhythmic thwack of the beater against the web of colonial looms. Cloth production in colonial America eventually became necessary as ties were severed with Great Britain. Cabinet makers found themselves to start turning out spinning wheels, looms, and other textile tools. Most families began growing flax in their own gardens and raising sheep to provide fiber for spinning yarn. It was an amazing day today, getting up this morning and finding myself spending time with Richard Wright and Gina Gerhard and her granddaughter Lily. Simply amazing.
Really grab. You couldn't do that with a round nail.
Thank you, Wendy. Look at me. Oh. Yeah.